Okay.
Hello guys, welcome to Playmat Format again. We own no rights to the background noise.
Disney
It's
owns all rights to
Disney.
everything in the
Disney
world.
owns it. It's Mickey Mouse Playhouse playing in the background. So yeah, I'm doing a deck tech today, not deck tech. Um, we've I made a deck. It's pretty good. It's called Sigarda Huron's Grace. Uh, Pretty much hexproof human deck. You know, Sigarda here, giving all humans and you hexproof, and creating more humans like she always does. One of the sexiest angels ever out there. You know, one of my favorites. Other than Aurelia, the war leader. I got different types of human tokens from different sets. I like to mix and match my tokens and cards. It doesn't really matter because it's a deck, you know? Humans. Um, I pretty much put humans, 3 Sigardas in this deck. I'll get to everything, but it's equipment, Sigarda, human, hexproof deck. It's pretty good. I mean, I made my other friend, quit in about half an hour. On round like 6 or 7. Not even that, it was like 5 or 6. Because I played a card that allowed me to grab cards from my deck and my opponent pays 2. Not pays 2, but looks at the 4 cards, and then he gets to choose 2 of the cards to put onto the battlefield, and the other 2 get put on the bottom of the library. I'll show you the main 4 cards I chose for that, and then I'll go from there. I chose this Ordric. I chose
You guys went out? Just yell over and let me know.
Sorry about that. I have a cold, so I'm gonna be coughing a little bit, but it should be all right for now. I chose that Ordric. I chose Sithis, the Viper's Fang. I chose Sigarda, Front of Blessing, and Ordric, Master Tactician. At this time, he didn't want me to have these 2, which are pretty broken in a human deck. Because this one, First Strike, Ordric Master Tactician. Whenever Ordric Master Tactician and at least 3 other creatures attack, you choose which creatures block this combat and how those creatures block. So I could literally just say, okay, your creatures don't block. And then this one, other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. So all my humans that were tapped would have Death Touch. And then other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. So since she's a human, I had Sigarda already on the battlefield. He was right to choose this card to put back in my deck. Because then it would have gave my other Sigardas, my other creatures hexproof. So Sigarda would have ended up with hexproof. And then I could tap one to untap another creature or land you control and tap Synthesis. So if I would have swung all out on somebody, I could have tapped one to tap this and untap my Sigarda, giving her hexproof again. So those two he chose to shuffle back into my library. And he let me have Ardric, Lunar Arch, Marshall, and Sigarda Font of Blessings. See, and Sigarda and a bunch of other humans were already on the battlefield. So Sigarda says flying other Sigarda Font of Blessings says flying other permanents you control have hexproof, so I ended up giving Sigarda this Sigarda hexproof. And then it allows you to look at the top card of your library, and you may cast humans and angels from the top of your library, which is super broken. And then of course y'all should already know what Ardric, Lunar Arc, Marshall does, but just in case, there you go. There's him. I'll read him off too. He says, at the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn if a creature you control has first strike. The same is true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, life link, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. See, and then at that time, everything would have had trample, lifelink, flying, hexproof, and first strike. At that time, because everything pretty much had hexproof because of Sigarda, because this Sigarda gave all humans and me hexproof. Alright, this is like my main force right there. If I had all these on the battlefield at once, and then, then we would have just had an unstoppable army of human flying angels. I put a few equipments in here, because, equipped creature gets +2, +1, and it has trample. It gives stuff trample, and then if it's a citizen, you could equip for 1. If it's not, I don't have very many citizens in this deck, so I equip for 3. But that's still, if I had that army, and then this on a creature would have gave him trample. I have Turin's first Fist of the Angels, which is pretty cool too, because he has training. So whenever this creature attacks with another creature with greater power, put a +1/+1 counter on him. So like if I had him on the battlefield and then Sigarda, swing with him and Sigarda, and I would have got a +1/+1 counter because of Sigarda. And then whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 green and white human soldier creature token with training. I do not have that token, but you just got to remember that token, if you play a 1/1, see, you could just play a 1/1 human here, and then say it has training because of this guy. Anyways, your tokens will grow bigger as long as turns on the battlefield. Then here's a good uncommon. It's called Hydra's Growth. It recently went up in price, so it's like $2 and something now. is uncommon called Hydra's Growth. You enchant creature, and then when Hydra's Growth enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. Then, at the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of +1/+1 counters on enchanted creatures. So you could just make a giant creature with hexproof, first strike, double strike. You know, get that Ordric out there and have Sigarda on the battlefield. Put this onto a creature and then, give that creature trample, Alright. We also have this Armadillo Cloak, which is one of my favorite green-white cards. Because you equip it, it gives a creature +2/+2 in trample, and then when it deals damage to someone, you gain a lot of life. So, keep that in mind. That's pretty cool. Goes well with that Hydra's Growth. It goes. And then I put some of these Midnight Hunt humans in here because they have that Coven ability. Some of the Coven abilities are good. This one's not that great. It just makes it unblockable to power 2 or less creatures. But there are some pretty good Coven abilities, like Dawnhart Mentor. Yeah, she's in the special art. It says, when Dawnhart Mentor enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human creature token. But it has that Coven, and you have to pay 6 for it. It's kind of a lot. But target creature you control gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. Activate only if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. See, she has 0. Sigarda has 4. Ordric has 3. Let's go with Tauren. He has 2. See, as long as everything is different powered, it gains the abilities. And then if you had Ordric on the battlefield, you played this. It gives a target creature +3/+3 in trample. Give it to Sigarda, whatever. And then everything will have flying, hexproof, and trample. I put equipments, like I said. I have this living weapon thing. It's called Nettlecast. You get this little 0/0 black germ, Phyrexian germ. But whenever you quit, creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and enchantment you control. There are a lot of enchantments and artifacts in this deck, so I decided to put this living weapon in there because it seemed to be good. And then the Invoke Justice. Why wouldn't you put this? You get to return a target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield, then distribute 4 +1/+1 counters among any number of creatures and or vehicles target player controls. So you play that. This cost is steep. It's 5 but 4 white. But if you could play that, you get to return like Ordric back from the battlefield and then give it alone 4 +1/+1 counters if you wanted to. Or you could spread out the +1/+1 counters. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, some of these Auroras ain't that cool like this. It has flash. but all it does is give a creature +2/+1. But when the creature dies, you get 2 treasure tokens. That sometimes come in handy, them damn treasure tokens. And then souls attend it, gain life. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So if your opponent plays a creature, you gain 1 life. You play a creature, you gain 1 life. So forth, so on. Kaladara Complete. One of my favorite equipment cards. It's a legendary artifact equipment. It's a living weapon, so when you play it, it gets a germ underneath it. But that germ, or whatever it is equipped to, well, this has indestructible. But whatever it's equipped to gets +5/+5, has first strike, trample, indestructible, and haste. So, like I said, you equip that to a creature, you have Ordric here out on the battlefield. Now everything has first strike, trample, indestructible, and haste. And hexproof. But there is a downside to it. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. Actually, that's a good an upside. So if they decided to block the creature that is attached with this, and that creature doesn't die, but your creature dies, your creature still deals damage to that creature, so you get to exile that creature that dealt damage to your creature. Yeah. Why wouldn't you put a pure steel paladin in a... Hey, he's a human. And, in an equipment deck, because there is equipments and auroras in this deck. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card, and then equipment you control have equipped 0, as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. So, with those badass equipment, yeah, you have this on the battlefield. Oh, I'm gonna disattach this equipment for 0, and then I'm gonna re-equip it to this creature for 0. 0. I put the Mantle of the Ancients in here. It's a full art foiling. I wish it was the Search foil, but this is pretty cool. It's a newer card from Fallout. Mantle of the Ancients. It says Enchantment Aurora. Enchant creature you control. When Mantle of Ancients enters the battlefield, return any number of target Aurora and or equipment cards that could be attached to enchanted creature from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to enchanted creature. And then it says enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each Aurora and equipment attached to it. Broken card. I also put this card in here. The bottom part is illegal in most tournaments because you can't place stickers in a regular game of cards. but the top part is legal. So, Soflora, intergalactic icon. If I went white, I would have put her as the commander, but she costs 5. She's one of those really cool galaxy foils. It says auroras and equipments you control attached to Soflora intellect icon affect other creatures you control as though those auroras and equipments were attached to those creatures. So, if like I had this, this attached to her, Hydra's growth attached to her, this, Armadillo Claw, Needle Cast. If I had all those attached to her, all my creatures will have these abilities. Which make all my creatures huge and indestructible flying hasters. She's good. And then counters and stickers. The stickers part don't count, but the counters do. Because you could still put indestructible counters on creatures nowadays. Affect other creatures. Sorry, affect other creatures as well. So, like if I played a card that says, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and you target Soflora, all your creatures get a +1/+1 counter because you targeted Soflora. Put an indestructible counter on target creature. It's a counter, so all your creatures will get an indestructible counter. Of course, Castle Arnvale, create more humans. Basically, I like full arts, and I like different kinds of full arts. So I just put the random ones I like the most in. Augur of Autumn. Great card. Augur of Autumn says you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands from the top of your library. If you have Coven, as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So she pretty much allows you to look at the top card of your library, and if you don't have a land drop but you flip over a land, you may play that from the top of your library. Then if you have Coven, once you flip over the top card of your library, look at it. If it's a creature, you may play it. Broke. I put Hardened Scales in here. One of those special arts from that new Eldraine set. You put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. You get to put one more instead. So, see? Full art. I ran out of green full arts, so I had to put regular arts in the green area. Quande. I think that's what he's called. Quande. Double strike. Creatures with first strike gain double strike. Well, have double strike. So if I played like a first strike creature, I have Quande. Well, it really doesn't matter if I have, this guy right here, because then everything would have double strike anyways. But if I didn't, and I had a bunch of first strikers out there with Kawande, they would all have double strike. Running short on like green or the white land, Terramorphic Expanse, because I can't afford, fetch lands, but I got. This is basically a fetch land that's cheap. Can sacrifice it at any time on other players' turns.
Yeah.
Great card. It's a good card. I like it. Cheapo budget smash people in the face deck is pretty much what this is. More basics. The basics. No one really cares about the basics. I'll just lay them out like this. So, Evolve Wilds. Same thing as that Terramorphic Expanse, but cooler. Bunch of just basics here. Green, white. Elsmith of the Trial. She pretty much gains you life, creates more humans, and then destroys all other permanents except for the lands and tokens. So the more tokens you play, and if you could alter, which it only costs 5 to alter, so literally you just +2 her once, and then the next turn you can alter, blow up the battlefield. Swing in with all your tokens. It's pretty cool. Thran Power Suit. I like this card because equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each Aurora and equipment attached to it, and it has Ward 2. Ward 2. If the hexproof don't counter the shit, the ward alone can counter the shit. Oh, you used to have this Ward 10 dinosaur. Everybody hated that. I like that dinosaur. You have to pay 10 mana to even target this dinosaur? What? Or I counter the spell? Broken. Unruly mob, regular human. Whenever a human dies, it gets a +1/+1 counter. It's just human. Soul Partition. This is pretty much exile target spell, and then I may play that target spell.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, pretty much. Fade into Antiquities. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Artifact enchantment removal. Removal is actually really good. Oh yeah. Brand new shirt, guys. Venom! One of my favorite Spider-Man characters. Right there. Venom. Venom! Yep. Anyways. Buy your silence! Exile target non-land permanent and create a treasure token. White and green don't really have many board wipes, so whatever you got for removal is probably in white. Well, white has a lot of board wipes, but in this deck you don't want board wipes. You want to keep your board the way it is. That's why I put that that only board wipe I have is this Elsmith, which isn't good, but you know, as long as you could keep pulling more of the exile target creature stuff and remove all the bigger threats, then you know, fuck them guys. No. Social Chimer, or whatever her name is. There she is, right there. It's a 1-drop. Or is it? No, it's a 3-drop. It's a 3-drop, dude. And it has Alliance. So whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So more life gain. You'll understand the life gain here in a minute. I mean, what would a life gain deck be without? I mean, if you can't kill your opponents without swinging in for death, and they could just, you know, kill you next, not kill you, but you have a bunch of life and you're losing all your creatures, even though they have hexproof and indestructible and shit. There's always Aether Flux Reservoir. You're at 100 life. You have this Aether Flux on the battlefield. Screw it. You know what? Let's pay 50 life and let's blow that asshole out of the sky. He dead. Alright, let's move on. You know? Together Forever. Great enchantment card. When Together Forever enters the battlefield, support 2, so you get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on each of up to 2 target creatures. And then you tap 1. You can tap 1 to choose one of the creatures with a counter on it. And when it dies, you can return it to your hand. So it's pretty much like, yeah, I'm going to swing this big old dude. I'm going to blow up your big old dude. And then you're like, no, I'm going to pay 1 targeting my big old dude. You blow it up. It just goes to my hand. Removal. Of course, exile target creature until this leaves the battlefield. More removal. Journey to Nowhere. Exile target creature till this leaves the battlefield. Tireless Tracker. Really good card. If you need card draw, of course. You play a land, you get a clue, and then whenever you sacrifice those clues, Tireless Tracker gets bigger. Simple. Unflinching Courage. One of my other favorite enchantments in this deck. Enchantment Aurora. It gives your target creature trample and lifelink. And +2/+2. So that's a good card. Mikaeus the Lunarch. This used to be a super expensive card till people started over making him, but I still like him. I mean, he comes out with a shit ton of +1/+1 counters. You could tap him, put a +1/+1 counter on him, or you could tap him to remove a +1/+1 counter and put it on another creature. Shauna Sesse's Legacy and foil and special art. Yeah. She pretty much has ability hate, so if you have a creature that says destroy a target creature that's on the battlefield, it wouldn't be able to target Shauna, because Shauna Sesse's Legacy can't be the target of abilities your opponents control. If your own ability had you kill it, then it would die, but your opponent's abilities on their creatures can't target Shauna. And then she gets +1/+1 for each creature you control, which isn't hard because it's humans. Mostly humans. There's a few angels. You can't have a human deck without the best human, Soul Warden. You play this whenever somebody else, whenever anyone plays a creature, or a creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So, if I decided to play a card that gave me 55 1/1 humans, I gain 55 life. Did I? Already?
So few decks.
Hmm?
They
So
come
few?
out. If it's cold, they need to come out. Yes.
The dinosaur deck is sold?
Dinosaur and Angel Human deck. So 45. And his buddy wants them.
The $100 dinosaur deck? Okay. When do they want them? Because that's $145.
Get out.
Ask them. Do you have the money now? Where do you want to meet? I'll wake his ass up. That's $145. We could go out to eat.
Are you still filming?
Oh, sorry guys. My bad. I'm going back to the deck tech. This deck and my dinosaur deck that I'm about to show in the next video, or I could just do them both on this one. It's going to be a very long video.
No, they're 2 separate.
But let's get back to this deck. But I just sold this deck and my dinosaur deck for $145.
Stop yelling!
Well answered her.
Anyway, Elite Scale Guard. This is a good card. Pretty much gives +1/+1 counters to the lowest toughness creature. You swing, and each creature with a +1/+1 counter on it, you get to tap down your opponent's creatures. So that comes in handy. Hopeful Initiate. It's a human warlock, and it has training. So, you know, if it attacks with a creature with power higher than it, it gets a +1/+1 counter. I can remove 2 +1/+1 counters from him by paying 2 and 1 white, and I could destroy an artifact or an enchantment. So that comes in handy.
Get back.
Idyllic Tutor. If you have 3 or more planes on the battlefield, it enters untapped, and then you get to put a +1/+1 counter on the target creature. Some more of this Coven stuff. This set's been out for a while. I don't know. I'll read it anyway. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, it gains trample until end of turn. And it's a 5/5 once you play it. You cast it for 5, and then you could give it trample. One of my other favorite equipments, Bone Horde. I mean, you equip it to a creature. If your opponent or you have a creature cards in your graveyard, you gain a shit ton of +1/+1 counters on that creature. The noises in the background is pretty much my nieces and nephews. Never mind that. Siege Veteran. More +1/+1 counter stuff, and it pretty much, whenever another non-token soldier you control dies, I get to create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact, which isn't that cool, but it also does help on other things.
Hey, Guys. Guys. Go upstairs.
Filter land, pretty much.
Let's go.
I got Sanctify. Sanctify says destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain 3 life. Sanctify. Kinda like Grove Witch. You have Coven, it gains flying. Augment armor. Sorry, guys. Equipped creature gets +6/+6, and whenever the equipped creature attacks, destroy target permanent. Definite removal, as long as it stays on the battlefield, and the creature gets +6/+6. Broken. Dual dominance. Pretty much, if you have Coven, creatures with different powers put a +1/+1 counter on the chosen creature, and it fights another creature. Next, Fleece Ram. 1 life every turn. Pretty much. Great card. It is not a human, but there's other creatures and stuff that gives your other creatures hexproof. So, like, everything's gonna have hexproof. This is my Sigarda hexproof deck. Human hexproof deck. More base glands, of course. Jukai Naturalist. It's cool if you have lots of enchantments in your deck, like I do. It pretty much makes your enchantments cost 1 less, and you could flash them out on your opponent's turn. So if you have flash equipments, which I only have 1, poo, but hey, flash them out, man. This is the broken card. It doesn't really cost much, but this is a broken card right here. It literally says search your library or graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different names that each have mana value X or less, and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Shuffle the chosen cards into your library and put the rest onto the battlefield. Are you fucking kidding me? Jacob, remember this card, Jacob. Remember this card.
What?
If you're watching, Jacob. Remember this card. Borrowed time, more removal. Pretty much exile target creature till it leaves the battlefield. Timberline Guide gives a +1/+1 counter to a target creature. Blanchwood Armor, one of my other favorite green auroras. It gives +1/+1 for each creature, to the enchanted creature for each force you control. Inquisitor Spike. Inquisitor Spike says equipped creature has Death Touch. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. So they take the damage from the creature and then they lose half their life rounded up, which fucking sucks. Trust me, Jack did it. My cousin Jack did it to me multiple times. Defend Celestis. It distributes 3+1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures you control. Sigil of Valor! To war! No, just kidding. Sigil of Valor pretty much says whenever equipped creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other creature you control. Bam. Sigil of Valor. More lands. The cool lands from Kamigawa. I like these lands. My favorites are so far the red ones or the black. Yeah, black for sure. This is just a weird land I got out of that Kruz set. It's called Ravnica Clue Edition. It's called the Conservatory. I don't know if this is legal in Commander, but it enters the battlefield tapped, so like it's not like super broken, but you get to pay 4 and get a clue because it investigates. Some more of those dope land. Griffwing Cavalry, more training dudes, and this one says whenever Griffwing Cavalry attacks, you may pay 2. If you do, target attacking creature without flying gains flying. More lands. I got Elspeth Undaunted Hero in here only for the first ability and the last ability. The second ability isn't that good unless you're playing standard. Other than the free shuffle it gives you, because no one's gonna run a Hoplite Acolyte or whatever it's called. Sunlit Hoplite. That card fucking blows. Anyway, good card. Gives you +1/+1 counters with the first ability. Second ability, if you want to search your libraries or just shuffle your library, you can -2 her. But -8. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain flying and +X/+X, where X is your devotion to white. So they get flying and really fucking big. Of course, Savala, Explorer. She's not a human, she's an elf. But each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, add a green, 1 green, and you gain 1 life. Then each player draws a card. So you get to keep the card you flipped over to reveal, pretty much. And I get more green, and I gain more life. Rune Chanter's Pike. This is equipment. It gives a creature I control first strike, and it gets +X/+O, which is the amount of instant and sorcery cards in my graveyard. Mostly I play it to get the first strike. But every once in a while I may have, you know, my 5 or 6 instant or sorceries in my graveyard that I showed you guys, or more. There's a little bit more. There's about 7 or 8. We're almost done, guys. This is gonna be about an hour video. Wanderer Strike. It's pretty much more removal. Plus, you get to proliferate, so you get to, you know, add more +1/+1 counters and stuff. Catilda, Dawnheart Prime, one of my favorite humans. Why? because human creatures you control have tap. Add 1 mana of any of this creature's colors. So you can tap your creatures for mana now. And then you can tap 6 to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So you can tap all your tokens, tap her, and just put a +1/+1 counter across your board. Great idea. Well, I thought it was a good strategy, but, you know, other players might not think so. But, you know, being able to tap your tokens instead of your good creatures for land seems like a good idea to me. Leonore Autumn Sovereign. She's a coven. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature you control. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you get to draw a card. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you pump up a creature, and then you get to draw a card. Because there's no way in a human deck you're not going to have 3 creatures with different powers. No way. Most humans are 2/2s, 3/3s, or 1/1s. Unless you're counting soldiers, then you can count the 5/5s and the 4/4s. The other Sigarda I have in the deck. One of the other Sigardas I have in the deck. I already showed off the other Sigarda. But this one says flying tramples, humans you control get +1/+1. But it has Coven. Whenever Sigarda attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a human creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Pretty much, you play her just to swing and fetch for your better humans. Daxo is blessed by the sun. It's not a human. It's a demigod. But it gains me life whenever a creature enters the battlefield or dies. Then I have Beacon of Immortality. Double target player's life total, and then you get to shuffle it back in. Free shuffles. That's what's up, is free shuffles. All the shuffles you could do. Just get the fucking lands out of the way. Because with this deck, you already have a mountain of lands. You need to be able to get out more humans and more humans and more humans. Give them all hexproof and you hexproof. And then swing in for the win. Like, anyways, that is the Sigarda deck, guys. Pretty decent. It's a budget deck. It's about a $50 deck. I pinged it up on TCG Player. It is not. It's not meant to be over. You know, like sliver type wide deck. It's pretty much play a bunch of small humans, get them bigger, swing in for the kill, or, you know, if a player's getting out of hand, your board's getting wiped out, there's always the gain 100 life and then throw 50 damage at somebody. Alright. Thank you for watching. This is the deck tech on Sigarda. Huron's Grace. Look at that sexy bitch. Isn't she sexy? Yeah, she's sexy. She flies. She has the most gorgeous wings out of them all, except for Aurelia, the war leader. She has some sparkly wings, but Sigarda. Alright, guys. This was playmat format. The Deck Tech Master, of course. Hi. And we'll see you next time.